In the wild, mysterious depths of Brittany, France, sits an old abandoned shack. Surrounded by ancient oaks and home to all manner of forest dwellers, it is here that we meet to share our stories. So pull up a seat, swing that light, grab your favourite beverage as we share another tantalising tale in the Freakin Shack.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Shack.
Hi, everyone.
I'm Trina.
I'm Steph.
And we're here to bring you some more unrehearsed, pretty unscripted, spooky stories again today. We did some on our previous recording. Let me just say that because we don't know.
We don't know what order they're going to come in at the minute.
Yeah, we do not know which order all of these are going to come in. They're all sort of linked because they're all unscripted and we just chat about these ghosty stories. But this particular episode is going to link very much with either an episode that you heard last week or an episode that you're going to hear next week. Again, we're not quite sure which way they're going to go, but this will definitely link with one of our tales from the shack. The reason it's going to link with that is that I have been researching and looking into a story that is based on part of the life of my grandmother, Steph's great-grandmother. And I managed to get some gorgeous photographs of her actual photographs. We've done a few AI photos from that so that we can tell the story, because obviously there were no video cameras in those days. And there were no, people didn't have general cameras that they used.
I was going to say cameras were not exactly as to hand and available as they are now.
No.
So, yes, it was a very different time.
Yeah. So we do have photographs of her at that time, and photographs of my mum as a little girl, and actually photographs of my grandfather, because he was slightly too young to serve in the First World War, although he tried very hard to get in, and he was slightly too old to serve in the Second World War. So he was just into his 40s, around his 40s. And I'm not quite sure what his job was. He worked at the Tate & Lyle sugar refinery in East London. And he wouldn't have been able to have got into the forces anyway because of the injury that he had when he tried to get in the First World War. I think we talked about it. He used to work with the dray horses and leading the horses into one of their warehouses or something. He got pinned against the wall and the big shaft in the middle of the dray horses crushed his chest when he was a young boy. And he actually had a hole in his chest here. I mean, it crushed
his sternum.
It crushed his sternum, yeah. And left him with a hole in his chest, obviously concave hole that you could basically...
It's like a depression.
A depression, yeah, where the bones obviously knitted back with the hole in his chest.
Poorly.
So that, yeah, I mean, he was...
Goodness.
He was able to work all his life and everything, but he wasn't able to go in the forces. So I've been looking at photographs and looking up bits of history, finding out bits more about certain things that happened when they were in East London during the Blitz, and what my grandmother was doing and what my grandfather was doing. And we've got a lovely true tale from the shack coming up. Either you've listened to it last week or you're going to listen to it next week. But this is sort of linked to it because obviously during the time that I've been doing all of this, I thought, wouldn't it be interesting if we looked at some spooky stories, strange, unexplained stories that were linked to the Second World War. So that's sort of what I've done. And I've got a few questions that we can ask afterwards that we can sort of have a bit of a discussion about. And obviously not just me and Steph, we want to throw the questions out to you too and see if you would mind giving us a few comments at the bottom. We never get any comments. No one talks to us.
Talk to us, people.
Yeah. We know you're out there. We know you're listening to us, but nobody talks.
Someone's listening.
The only person who talks to us is someone called Trina, funnily enough.
Or me. I talk to us.
Yeah. We come and put our own comments with our, not with the Freakin Shack account, but with our own personal accounts.
Own personal accounts, because then it actually looks like we're getting interaction.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, if we're not talking about the stuff that you want us to talk about, then leave a comment and tell us that. Happy to change topics, people. Just need to know.
Yeah. We will move in the ways that you want us to move. If you want more information about this or more information about that, we're more than happy to see if we can get the information for you and chat about it.
We can do that.
Yeah. So it just made me think that the Second World War produced not just stories of survival, but moments where reality seemed too thin. So here are some true, I've got in brackets, or well documented. So ghost stories and eerie occurrences from that time.
Okay.
So
this is all new to me too, folks. I'm
just throwing this at Steph at the minute. This is where I say, this is where
the unscripted part really does come in.
Totally unscripted. By the way, what's your brew? Have you got a brew?
I haven't even got one. It's so unscripted. I was not prepared at all.
She couldn't even clean her glasses before we started.
No, it took me ages. And then I had stuff down my shirt and I had to change my shirt. Yeah, really, I've not done very well today.
Never mind. Don't worry.
Never mind.
I've got my lights on again behind me.
I like them. I think they're looking good. They're very cool, mysterious and kind of changey. They're in keeping with what we're up to.
Well, it's not so much a story, but I'm going to swing that light anyway, just to get us going. So this first little piece is about the Battle of Mons. Now, the Battle of Mons wasn't World War II, it was World War I. But because battles took place in one place in World War I, and then also close to that place, more battles in World War II took place, there seems to be sometimes a link between the two.
Oh, you mean in terms of the ghost stories? So sometimes we're getting references back all the way back.
Yeah. So
I see.
So certain eerie occurrences that happened in World War I were then seen and reported by soldiers in World War II. So soldiers in World War II reported similar unexplained visions that had been reported during World War I. There were figures appearing in the battle that seemed to be guiding or warning the soldiers in some way, shape or form. And it doesn't actually say whether that was one side or the other.
Interesting.
So I am not assuming that they were all one-sided. I don't quite believe in this, God is on our side. I think it's rather difficult to start to say that. But anyway, hey-ho, let's move on from there. But there was a sense of, soldiers were saying there was a sense of not being alone. Even if they were alone, they felt as though that there was a presence there with them. And therefore, in times of real danger, when they felt as though they needed somebody with them, they felt as though there was someone with them.
So, in a good way or in a bad way?
In a good way most of the time.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't see anywhere in these that things were too scary. I think the war itself was scary enough.
Quite.
Do you know what I mean?
So it was more of a comforting presence than a negative.
Yeah, a guiding sometimes presence. So anyway, so it was more about a recurring human experience in war. Soldiers in World War II still reported strange battlefield visions. Troops claimed to see figures in the fog guiding them to safety. Some described silent soldiers marching where no units existed, and others spoke of a presence that warned them moments before danger. So maybe get out of here, guys, you know.
Yeah, here is not the time and place.
Yeah.
Get out.
Or leading them somewhere, making them feel like they need to move somewhere else, or duck down, or move from the place that they were. Many believed that these were echoes of past wars replaying themselves like a haunting loop. And we've talked about this before, about these like time slips or sort of high emotion in a certain place, and it almost gets like recorded and replayed.
Yeah,
and you can imagine
like a snapshot in time that's replaying. Yeah,
and you can imagine that in itself, you've got the emotion of the thing that was recorded originally. And then, of course, you've got the emotion of what is happening now, or back in World War II. That did it trigger the thing? I don't know.
I suppose it's interesting because it would be interesting to know if any of this type of thing still shows up now. Now, you know, in places where it has since calmed.
Yeah.
Can you still go and experience that kind of thing? Does it not happen now? Because in which case that would make me think that, you know, the rise in emotional energy in the area might trigger it in some way. Did it happen in between the wars as well? Because I guess emotions were still pretty high.
Yeah.
In some of those areas.
Yeah, it's interesting that now, I'm going to go back to my good guys on ghost theory. Because they did an experiment just a month or so ago, and they actually had a young lady who volunteered to go into supposedly the most haunted house in the UK. Something East Street or so, I think. I can't remember the exact address, but I'll link the episode in our show notes. But she volunteered to work with them. They sat out in the car. They went in with her originally, got her set up, then went out in the car, and they were recording her. Obviously, there were cameras all over the house that they'd set up. And they wanted to see how she reacted to start with. But then partway through the recording, they actually told us in the car that they hadn't told her, but what they were going to do was tell her that there was either a shadow or they'd seen something walk past the doorway, or what they were trying to do was scare her a bit. Not too much, but they wanted her energy a bit more on edge.
Compliant.
Yeah, but what they wanted to see was if the haunting energy or the scared energy inside her would trigger more paranormal type things happening. So they basically, it's a bit like you saying, when we're looking at places where you have World War I, World War II, And during the war, people were actually seeing stuff that may be related to World War One because of the heightened emotion and what was going on, the chaos of war a second time round. But this in a slightly much less situation, what they were trying to do was see if they could trigger her to be more scared, and therefore would that produce her having more paranormal type experiences. And it was
Did it work?
Yes, it did a little, yeah. I wouldn't say loads, but that she was more susceptible to the atmosphere.
Is that because though, and this is my big question, is that because she was then already in a heightened emotional state and expecting more things to happen, therefore they did? Or is it because her emotional energy was playing into the energy in the room and therefore, do you know what I mean?
They had more.
How do you determine that?
Yeah, I don't think they could in the end. I think this was a discussion that they had about it as to whether the more excited you get, the more scared you get, do they use that energy?
Yeah, I'm just kind of thinking of like a situation where you go into an environment, right? And you're in a silly mood, right? When you're in a silly mood and you get together with your friends and somebody says something that's funny, it is inherently more funny because you're in a silly mood.
Yeah. Yeah.
My cat is bloody. She's at the window.
I know.
Hang on a minute.
I can hear her meowing. I can hear her. Yeah.
Hang on.
Goodness sake, Jonesy kitty face. Why do you pick now? Huh? Why do you do it to me? Yeah? There you go. There we go. There you have it. Dear me.
Them bloody animals. Okay, she's on the roof now. She's fine.
Is she fine now?
Yeah, she's gone out the window. She's climbing along. She's hunting mices. Anyway, what I was saying is if you are in that mood and then you're then put in a situation that fits with the mood you're in, do you see what I mean? If you're in a really bad mood and somebody said the same thing that you found hysterically funny in the funny mood, but you might kind of go, oh, they're just being stupid. Do you know what I mean? It's not funny because you're not in the right mood for it. Yeah. So I'm kind of thinking that if they set her up to feel a little bit anxious, a little bit unsure, and a little bit worried, that then she's going to be more susceptible to feeling uneasy feelings.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, anyway. Totally get it. And that was a discussion they had, whether it was it, but they did see more stuff happening with her after they scared her a little bit. So, but they are very good at discussing all the aspects. They don't just put it down.
Where did you say this place was?
Which place? Mons, the Battle of Mons.
Yeah, but you said that they went to this house.
Oh, sorry. No.
I was going to say that wasn't there.
No, I was talking about that for the war, but this was, I think it's something East Street or something. Is it it's supposed to be the most haunted house in the UK?
Well, I've got the most haunted house in England up here.
Yeah. I might get it. I might have it totally wrong.
And I've got Borley Rectory, which is a house located in Borley, Essex.
Yeah, no, this is just an ordinary house.
Ah, okay.
There was a lot happening with two teenage girls. I can't remember the whole story, but it is just an ordinary home. It's just like a semi-detached house. You'd walk down the street and walk past it and not even realise if you didn't know.
Okay. I like it. I like it. So the first one that comes up is Borley Rectory. That's oh no, that's a huge place. It won't be there.
No, it's just a
So
2 or 3
number
bedroomed
one-
house.
Oh, okay. So there is a house, the Doll's House, Sheerness, Kent.
Yeah, no, it's not that one either.
Not that one. Okay. No, that's Linden Drive. So it's not that one. The Vine, Hampshire. It's not that. That's a monstrous building.
No.
That's like Downton Abbey. That is. That's not.
Yeah. No, this is an ordinary domestic house. It was somebody's home with 2 teenagers. A very, very famous story.
Okay.
I'll leave you looking those up while I can send you straight to it afterwards.
Okay.
We'll definitely put links in the show notes.
I tell you
for
what,
it.
the places that I'm getting here are like castles and
Yeah.
like big places.
Yeah. No, this is just an ordinary house.
The stupid thing is that the search that I put in was the most haunted residential houses. Like, how do they think we live? This is not a residential house. This is a castle. Like,
Yeah. Well, if someone lives there, I suppose it is residential, is it?
it has ramparts. It's a gatehouse, for goodness sake.
It's not a semi-detached house with a little kitchen.
Chillingham Castle. Yes,
No. Oh, that's all
Although, to
wrong.
be fair, I'd live there because that looks amazing.
Yes, it is quite spectacular, that is. Anyway, going back
Sorry.
to my little stories. No, it's fine. Going back to my little stories, sailors crossing the Atlantic during the Battle of the Atlantic reported seeing entire convoys on the horizon that vanished without trace. Now, you could say they might have been bombed, torpedoed.
I mean, without any trace is like.
But the fact is that they weren't nothing was reported missing. So they actually saw these convoys and they disappeared, and it wasn't like they weren't sunk. It wasn't anything like that. They heard radio chatter from ships that had already sunk. Now that to me is bizarre.
Yeah, but we've had this before because we talked about a plane and a pilot on a plane and they received the distress signals, didn't they? And there was nothing.
Yeah.
Or was that wait a minute, that might have been a ship as well. That might have been a boat.
No, I think it was
I can't remember.
it was a plane.
Oh, it was a plane. Yes, it was.
Yeah.
It was. And they were saying that they were listening to this distressed guy calling for help, and there was absolutely nothing they could do about it because he died years and years before.
Yeah, it was a message. I know.
Just devastating.
Yeah. And they also were spotting crew moving on vessels that were long lost to U-boats.
Wow. I mean,
again, lost ships. That where they saw crew members that had already been lost, but still carrying out their duties or something, I suppose. One chilling account described a ship appearing alongside them. So you imagine that. Now, virtually everybody on board got to know about a ship coming right alongside them.
like ghost ship.
Yeah, matched their speed as a ship, but was completely silent and then dissolved into the mist.
Wow. I mean, yeah, that's pretty creepy stuff.
Yeah.
Especially if it's very close, because obviously there are issues with 2 large ships coming that close.
It's always very well planned if they're going to do that. It's normally to swap something over or communicate in some way.
Yeah.
Sending stuff from one ship to another. And it's
like you
normally
say, it has to be planned out to make sure that, nothing can go wrong.
Absolutely.
So it must have been quite scary for the people on board to suddenly see that, know that they had no communication. I'm assuming they'd had no communication from this ship.
No. And it
yeah,
matched
that's
it
terrifying.
matched the speed of the ship and then just disappeared. Yeah. I can imagine people going
Crazy.
thinking they
Wow.
might have had a tot of rum too much.
Yeah, maybe.
At a former RAF base at former RAF bases across Britain, ground crew reported seeing pilots walking towards planes that no longer existed.
Planes didn't exist, or the people?
They
Or both?
saw they saw them walking towards where planes were parked before, but the plane now no longer existed. So it was that walk, I think, of seeing somebody walking towards where a plane obviously that went down,
I see.
and is
Right.
now not there anymore, but they still see the person then walking towards their plane. Engines were heard starting up in empty hangars.
Sorry, I'm not going to comment on your word of engine. Is that with an I?
Engine.
Thank you.
Engine.
Engine and chimney.
Yeah. Sorry, I come from East London. I can't help it.
You've got a chimney and your car's got an engine.
Yeah, engine.
Dear me.
Starts with an E. But they were heard starting up in empty hangars, and then figures in uniform would salute and then disappear.
Wow.
One famous case involved a pilot landing at a familiar base only to find it completely abandoned and overgrown. When he returned later, it was back to normal. We did a story about something like that
I was just thinking about that.
They flew over. They didn't actually land. They flew over and saw it abandoned. Or were they going
the other way round? They flew over and they saw a fully functional airbase.
That's right, and it wasn't.
It was a fully functional airbase, and then when they actually landed and then went to see where this place was, it was completely abandoned, overgrown, hadn't been in for years.
Hadn't been used for years. Yeah, so slightly different way round that one. But it says here time slip or something replaying, and I think it could be either or.
Yeah. I mean, this is the thing. It's like we're coming back to that thing that we have talked about before, and whether or not we're going to talk about soon, however it comes out in the recording. But we talk about the fact that I don't know is still an answer. It's still a genuine answer.
Absolutely.
The truth is, I don't know. Right. And that's perfectly okay. That there's a tendency to try and give a reason for it. There's a tendency to try and debunk it or prove it in some way, one way or the other. And I just, unless I'm there, I can't help debunk it because I don't have that experience. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah, totally agree.
I
totally agree with
and
you.
I saw the base with my own eyes and then saw it later differently. I would have to debate whether or not I'd taken anything, whether or not I'd drunk anything. Is there any potential way that I could be hallucinating this entire thing? Was I particularly stressed that day?
Yeah.
But at least I feel like I could then try to come up with some form of reason. I don't feel like I can do that for somebody else.
Yeah.
I just feel that's really devaluing to somebody's experience.
Absolutely. This one is very interesting and very close to home because what I've been looking at is London during the Blitz, because that's where my grandmother, my grandfather and my mum and that were living. They were living in the East End of London between the docks on one side, the dry docks, and was that your stomach?
If that came out of your stomach.
Yeah. I thought it was your cat. Growling.
Actually, my stomach like, I was just like, oh my goodness, because I saw the thing come up on the screen. I was just like, oh my God.
It's just as well one of us didn't say, did you hear that?
Yeah. Yeah. Paranormal activity. Doors creaking or something.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So during the Blitz, ARP wardens, and that's exactly what she was, and civilians reported figures moving through bombed streets. People were guided out of rubble by somebody who then disappeared. So that's the same thing as the soldiers being warned or guided.
Or sort of carrying on their role.
Yeah. I'm not going to go too much into my grandma's story because they're similar things.
You're going to tell that story later.
Yeah. Or I've told it last week.
Or you told it last week. Yeah. You're talking about time slips.
Yeah. This is a total time slip, this one. Some rescuers later realised that the helper matched someone that had already been killed. And why am I getting message notifications when I've put all my notifications off?
I would love to be able to answer that for you.
Is that paranormal?
Potentially, or you've just set some people up to be exempt from the rule because you can do that.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you. I haven't personally had that experience and therefore I cannot debunk it.
Therefore, but it does say a common thread for all of these is that most of the people that were helped or saw something like this during an episode of high stress during conflict felt that they weren't frightening at all and that whoever it was or whatever it was helpful.
It's almost even more heartbreaking. You know, you just want to know that you just want to know if there's going to be people die, you want them all to be bastards. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to know about the nice people who are just doing their damn best, you know, whether they are part of the military or civilians or whatever. I cannot stand innocent people being just mowed down by, you know,
and
machine
caught
gun
up in
fire
all this. No,
whatever.
I know.
It's just horrific.
Yeah.
And I remember Nana telling me about one of her friends that, you know, was never seen again after she went out for bread in the morning.
Yes.
You know, and all they found was she had very, very distinctive red curly hair.
Yes.
And I remember her telling me about that and saying that she'd been sent out to the bakery for bread in the morning and there'd been an air attack, you know, and she'd been gunned down and the only thing they found of her, I think, was bits of her hair.
Yeah.
All over the street. It was just horrific. And I cannot even think like how old she would have been. Not very old.
My mum was only just 14 when the war finished.
Yeah.
She
so
was
we're talking kid, you know, young.
Yeah. Yeah. Quite a few of the children came back from evacuation round about 1944, 43, 44-ish, because a lot of the bombing as such had finished. But some kids never went away.
Yeah.
This is the thing. There were some children who were never sent away because the parents couldn't bear to not have them with them, and felt that for them...
Which I can understand, but...
To try and see, you know, your child being put on a train and not know where they're going, you know, with a little gas mask around their neck and a little note pinned to them of what their name was and everything. Yeah. And there were quite a few who snatched their children from trains before they left and were just like, I can't do this.
I imagine there would be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, from the stories that I've heard, I mean, both my parents were evacuated. My dad was 9, I think, when he was evacuated, and he thought it was the best thing in the world. He thought it was just an exciting adventure.
Yeah. And I imagine a lot of 9-10-year-olds would.
Yeah.
But then you imagine the children that were much younger than that and having to say goodbye to their parents and not knowing when they were going to be coming back, if they were going to be coming back.
And not knowing who they were going to go and stay with either. I mean, imagine safeguarding now.
Blimey.
You know, You were just lined up and just given children to look after.
Yeah.
And there are horrific stories from some of those children that were evacuated. I mean, we were very lucky, and my mum she went to 2 different places, and it was beautiful. They still remain friends. I remember when I was a young girl being taken to see Mr. Betty, who was one of the people that my mum was evacuated to. He was a very old man by that time. But the family was still connected. They still saw each other. In fact, I've got a
That's
photograph.
really lovely.
I've got a photograph of my grandma sitting on the beach in her deck chair next to Mr. Betty, where they'd gone to the beach together. Not just the 2 of them. There was like
sweet.
Mr. Betty's family and my grandma and my mum's family. They remained friends for many, many, many years.
I love that.
So, yeah.
So there were happy stories in there as well.
Oh, very happy. Yeah, extremely happy. And I think my
not everybody had those experiences.
No, they didn't. Anyway, pilots and crew reported seeing extra crew members on board mid-flight.
Wow. Could you imagine?
Yeah.
Could you imagine? Because, I mean, let's face it, they have quite a strict itinerary of every single person on board. To suddenly find somebody that shouldn't be there.
Yeah.
It becomes an emergency situation, doesn't it? Because who is this person? What are they doing?
Especially if you know the person when you see them and you're like, you shouldn't be here because you died 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Because these planes would have been going from the same
back and forth
airfield, and I don't know. But they would hear voices over intercoms from dead comrades. A little bit of that what we heard, but you can imagine if you suddenly hear like you're somebody that you'd worked with last week, and all of a sudden his voice is coming over the radio. And instruments reacting to unseen interference.
Well, we were talking about this too.
And one crew swore that a fallen navigator continued giving directions and saved their lives.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is the thing, like, there's got to be something else, hasn't there? You don't just... If that energy is strong enough, it seems. If that energy is strong enough, it's sticking around.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes you think, that could be it. That you're so determined to get your mates back to where they've got to go. And you were the navigator, even though you'd just been shot. Do you continue to do your job in spirit? Do you? I don't know.
I don't know. Never happened to me. Yeah. But it does seem that a lot of these kinds of situations, a lot of these spirits, ghosts, this type of story comes from events that have been highly emotionally charged.
Yeah.
So even looking at like the grey ladies that walk around houses, and then you find out that they lost a child and now they're just looking for their child. Again, a very emotional moment in a woman's life. And therefore you imagine that would be a good charge to, for somebody to stick around. It's a very interesting thing. Yeah, weird.
A few questions I'm going to throw at you now. It says, what is it about wartime that seems to thin the veil between the worlds? Do you think extreme fear and stress, which is exactly what we're talking about, can create these experiences? Or do they reveal something that is already there?
Yeah. I don't know. And that's exactly what I said at the beginning. Like in terms of like that whole thing of if you're susceptible to it because you're in a similar emotional state, do you then pick up on it?
Yeah.
Or is or do you actually help charge it?
Yeah.
With your extra emotions that it comes through specifically because you're there. I don't know. But it does seem to be that a lot of these events, a lot of these ghost experiences, when they research these places where horrific things have happened, people that have been tortured or arrested unjustly and put to death, or do you know what I mean? And all of a sudden there's ghostly apparitions and there's events that are happening. And it does make me wonder if the more emotionally charged the situation, the more likely there is to be this kind of thing go on.
So it says, why do so many of these stories, though, connected to the war, tend to feel calm rather than frightening? Personally, I think the whole war thing is frightening enough. If you're...
Okay, so let me tell you something that I have noticed about people who served in the military. They're not headless chickens, right? These people deal with stress really well. Usually something will happen that will make somebody physically jump, and you will see them cool as a cucumber because they're dealing with that. Okay, granted, they're probably repressing an absolute shit ton of emotions, which will probably come back and bite them in the ass eventually. It's only really later, I think, when you really have to start going through some of those issues that haven't been addressed, when situations start to come up that cause a problem. And
you're very much trained to do your job. You're also very much trained to be a team. You are a team player, and you're there to support your colleagues no matter what. And it's almost if these people lose their lives, it's almost as though that is so a part of them that they almost can't. It's like you can almost see, someone saying to them, I'm sorry, but you got to come, and they're like, no, hang on.
Yeah,
I got
exactly. Hang on a minute, I'm not done.
Hang on a minute. I've just got to do this and this. I've just got to make sure my lads or my girls or whatever get out of this place or go the right way, or it's almost
and
like
I feel like it's all. Yeah, but there's that thing there of it coming back. So after all of those events played out and are finished, the moment that you then get military personnel back in that spot, it's almost like they go, oh, sorry, they're back. They need me.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you say, it's so ingrained, and you see people that have run miles on broken limbs and things like that because they are with their team.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely crazy.
Yeah. Amazing, some of the things that the stories that come out of survival and people going far beyond what was expected of any human being.
Yeah.
Really. But
absolutely.
If you were walking the blacked out streets, how do you think your mind would interpret the shadows and the silence?
Well, I see. It does depend on the situation, because if I can walk around here at night in the dark, in the pitch black. And one thing you learn around here is that you keep your eyes up, because you can see the sky being ever so slightly brighter than the floor, right? So you navigate that way. But if I catch sight of something moving, my first thought is just generally a boar, and I kind of need to make myself scarce. But it's usually wildlife.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's going to be the most likely thing that it's going to be. But that's because I'm very lucky to be living where I'm living, in a very safe location.
Well, this is it. It depends where you live. It depends the situation. It depends on your past experiences.
I mean, pick me up and put me into a city situation
and
tell me to walk around at night. My emotions would be in a very different state.
Yeah. Plus the fact, if you take this, if you are walking around blacked out streets, for a start, there probably is a curfew of some sort going on. So you wouldn't be expected to be out after dark unless you were working, in which case the local people who are on duty would know who you are and would expect to either see you or hear you. Otherwise, it will probably be a cat or something like that. And they would know these places like the back of their hand. They walked around these streets. They know the noises and the sounds that come from their area. The echoes and the noises from houses.
The clanking from the particular loose-fitting manhole cover or whatever it is.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it says here, do you think people like ARP wardens became more intuitive because of the constant danger? I don't think they were.
I don't think you're more intuitive, but I think you've got to know more.
I think
about what is normal and what is not normal.
I think your senses were on higher alert.
Yeah.
In those circumstances. So I think that's probably more of what it was, which is what happens to anybody who's put in a situation where suddenly they feel threatened.
Yes. And not to mention the fact that because being put into that situation suddenly is one thing, but being put into that situation when you know you're being put in that situation for an extended period of time, every night for however many years. Yeah, I think I think that it can go to the extreme where you're almost seeing every shadow as being a threat, where you're over anticipating the threat as well. Can't have been a very comfortable time at all for anybody.
Let's see what else I've got here. It says here, why do similar stories appear across different countries and situations? I think because we're all human and we all react in a very similar way. Yeah. It doesn't matter.
Because we have had those experiences happen in more than one spot.
And once you are in a threatening situation, it doesn't matter what culture you're from or what country you're from. Your normal human senses,
your normal sort of human fight, flight, or freeze responses, or is it fight, freeze, or fawn, whatever.
Flop.
But that is going to kick in for anybody.
Absolutely. But things like your hearing will become quite acute if you can't see something because it's dark.
Yeah.
It's a bit like
you
people
then rely on other things.
It's a bit like people who lose their sight or lose their hearing. You tend to find that another sense will overtake and take its place in some way, shape, or form. Do you think places can record events or replay them? We've talked about that quite a bit. And if anybody's got any stories of this type of thing, we'd love to hear them, to be honest, because I think they can. Certainly when there's quite a lot of emotion stored up, but also I think sometimes everyday things can happen that can be recorded and then re-seen. And again, could some sightings be people accidentally stepping into another moment in time? So we've said that before. Is it a ghost that you're seeing, or have you momentarily stepped yourself into a different time zone? And we talked about time slips. I think we've got to go back there and talk about them a bit more, because I've heard
we might touch base on a few of those again, because we have actually referenced them a few times.
Yeah, maybe we could do that in this series where we could pull some together and have a chat about them. How would you react if someone helped you out and you later found out they had already died?
I'd say thanks.
Would it comfort you or terrify you? I think if someone helped me out, I wouldn't care whether they were living or dead. It doesn't matter to me.
I don't mind if you've helped me out. You're going to get the same response, and that's like, hey, thanks very much, appreciate that.
Yeah.
I don't actually, it wouldn't bother me in
Yeah.
the slightest if I then found out that that person had passed. I would kind of go, oh, ooh, because that for me would be a first.
Yeah.
So I would be like, oh, it would be very interesting. But I would have to go back to wherever that situation happened because I'd have to say thank you. I'd have to say something.
And if you had been there in the blackout and something unseen guided you to safety, would you want to know who or what it was?
If there was something that guided me to safety, would I want to know who or what it was? Yeah, I mean, if it was a person, I would love to know who that person was, what their experience was, how they knew what was coming, you know? So like, was it like, that's what happened to them? That's how they died. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's a mine shaft nearby. Do you know what I mean? Or something like that. Is that then what happened to them? And I'd want to know. Or is it one of those situations where this person was, I don't know. Yeah, I'd want to know. Yeah, I would want to know.
Yeah. I wouldn't worry if I didn't find out.
It wouldn't bother me.
I would be very thankful to whoever or whatever it was, because I think sometimes animals have been known to help guide people.
Yeah.
In certain ways to help them, but it would be interesting to know who it might have been.
Yes,
but I don't think
I would certainly go home and start Googling.
Yeah,
to see what I could find out.
Yeah,
for sure.
But I wouldn't. I would just be very grateful. I would just whoever it is, whoever you are, I'm very grateful for what you've done.
There's a thing there because you've always taught me the importance of using somebody's name.
Yeah.
So I'd want to know who they were so that I could thank them.
Yeah.
By name. Does that make sense? I could say thank you to the ether. Thanks very much. But I'd really like to be able to say thanks to, whoever it was.
They would know, wouldn't they?
They would know. Yeah.
They would know. And I think if my thoughts are, if they were that concerned that they felt you needed to know who they were, they would let you know what their name is.
Sure.
They would sort of lead you so that you could find them. But actually, sometimes heroes don't need the...
they don't need the specific recognition.
No, they do it because that's what they do. And as long as you're okay and that they brought you through whatever it is they brought you through, they're just... And you say, thank you. I don't know who you are. I don't know what you did, but you helped me today. And I just want to say thank you. That to them would be enough.
Yeah.
I think, anyway. And
yes.
For me...
And it probably would be. It probably absolutely would be enough for anybody. But for me, I would like to know who that person was.
Yeah.
Just for me.
Anyway, that's the end of my questions. That's the end of my little stories. My little light has stopped swinging. I think it stopped swinging ages ago. But
yeah, probably, yeah.
But there you go. Lots of little stories. We'd love to hear your stories, our listeners' stories.
I also love to know our listeners' thoughts on some of this. How do you think things like, can you explain any of this? Do you have any theories? If you were going to try and debunk any of this, what would be your first thoughts?
Yeah.
I mean, as for like the crew on a plane suddenly coming across a person who shouldn't be on the plane, because they died 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Or whatever. That's mad. And I'm curious to know what our listeners think.
If you remember, that was one of the stories we heard about one of the planes that had come down in a crash, and then certain parts of the plane had been used.
That's right.
As parts
to go into other planes.
And they were having those planes that had the bits of this particular plane in were having weird things happening in
Yeah.
their plane
And
until
the crew showing up and things like that as well.
there was all sorts of
and then
stuff happening.
They took those parts out, didn't they? And then they never saw them again.
Yeah, and then it stopped.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that makes you go,
And the thing is, that also makes me a little bit sad
yeah.
because I don't know. Is it right to keep to keep somebody around because you don't want to let them go? It's probably not right, is it?
But is it that, or is it that was an emotional event and therefore it replayed?
Yeah.
And because it was moved, it just replayed like a tape recorder.
Yeah, but what I mean is when you take that part out of the plane, you're never going to see them again. That can't replay anymore. So,
well, it's still, I suppose, unless you completely ruin the item, smash it to pieces, it's going to continue to replay. But you're not hurting anybody. It's a bit like It's a bit like if one of our recordings went missing, it would be disappointing for us not to have it, but it's not going to physically harm us, is it?
That's a good point. That's a good point. I like that thought. Yeah,
so
the person themselves has already gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not in there anymore.
No, it's not the person themselves.
But then how do they then interact with our world? How do they then...
But then that might not be a recording. That might be something else. And that might be choice, that they come when they're needed and then they go again.
See, I'm so confused.
And that's how we like to leave everybody.
Yeah.
So confused. Gives us more to talk about.
Absolutely it does. And as I say, I'm really interested to know what our listeners think and feel about these kinds of situations. So with that being said, lovely listeners, be sure to keep your minds open and your lamps lit. And we will see you again next week at the Freakin Shack.
Bye, everyone.
Goodbye.
Thanks for hanging out in the shack with us. If you've got a strange story, theory, or even just a spooky question, send it to shackpackinbox@gmail.com because we'd love to hear from you. Follow us to ensure that you never miss an episode of the Freakin Shack, because listening to us is much cheaper than therapy and slightly more spooky. Until we meet again next week, Shackpackers, take care.